In just about an hour, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission will hold an informational hearing on the next steps in decommissioning San Onofre nuclear power plant. Here to explain the choices is David Wiseman with the Alliance for Nuclear Responsibility. David, welcome.
Well, thank you for having me.
Now, we know federal regulators gave Southern California and Edison 2 years to develop sort of a shutdown blueprint, if you will. Edison says they're going to have this blueprint available by next summer. But how long do they actually have to physically decommission this plant or dismantle it?
According to the NRC's regulations, a utility has up to 60 years to return the site to the standards they've set for background radiation and for what they would call an unrestricted use.
So 60 years.
That's correct.
I understand there's really only 3 options in order to remove radioactive components. And I want to talk about them one by one, starting with decon, the immediate dismantling of the facility. How does that work, and how likely is this particular option going to be used?
Yeah, decon means you just begin taking it apart. That has to do with the components internally, the piping, the plumbing, the radioactive vessel itself. This has been used on the East Coast. I'm aware of examples in New England where a group of reactors, 900 megawatt pressurized reactors, so they do have something in common with San Onofre, but they were smaller. And what happened is a lot of these were decommissioned in the mid-90s because of economic reasons, and they began taking it apart, they began blasting the cement, and it took 10 years basically to get it down so that that field, that site now, looks just like the empty field it was before they built it.
And let's talk about the second option, safe store, which involves, I guess, waiting for radiation levels to decay and then dismantling the plant. What's the advantage to that, and who here in California has done this?
Right, a safe store means that you do wait 10 years, maybe longer, to begin the work. And part of the advantage there is the very hottest radionuclides can decay over time. What this does is it allows the workers who would be exposed to this during the cleanup to spend longer hours working instead of working in such limited bits. So efficiently, you might get more work done at a later date, saving money in the long run. Safe store plants in California that I know of include Humboldt Bay, and that might have been the case for Rancho Seco initially, but it's now been decommissioned.
Okay, and the third option, which I understand has never been used before here in the U.S., it's called entomb, which basically involves encasing all of the radioactive components and keeping them there permanently. Now, the estimated cost of decommissioning, I guess regardless of which kind they choose, which plan they choose, is just over $4 billion. And I understand half of that money has already been provided by customers putting into that fund. And before I ask you about it, I want to hear from Stephen Pickett. He's the VP of Southern California Edison, and here's what he says about this money for decommissioning.
Now that we're focused on decommissioning, our job here is to get that done in the manner most cost-effective to our customers. So we are now engaged in the process of studying whether or not it would be most cost-effective to leave the plant in a shutdown condition for some period.
So kind of talking about that safe store option might be financially better for San Onofre.
Well, you have to remember that they had planned on keeping it running originally for another 10 years, and money was going to be accruing from ratepayers in the fund during that time, so they may be hoping to build that fund back up during these years.
What kind of oversight, if any, is there on how this money, this decommissioning money, is going to be spent?
Well, that is happening at the Public Utilities Commission. The Public Utilities Commission has been holding decommissioned fund proceedings every 3 years for decades now to determine how much money and whether it's wisely spent. The Alliance is filed in the decommissioned funding, as are other parties, in the hopes of keeping an eye out. One of the things, for example, we're asking is, with this money that we've been collecting, how much of that can be shifted to more quickly moving the dangerous fuel from those spent fuel pools to the much safer above-ground casks or canisters? So those are the kinds of questions we'll be asking in the decommissioning proceeding.
How about oversight regulations when it actually comes to the physical safety of doing this, the logistics of doing this, and how safe it is to the community and to our environment?
That is the NRC's job, and that is apparently what they're going to be introducing us to at the meeting tonight, what they plan to do. The NRC is responsible. The NRC has stated that they plan to do we're going to be on top of this. But remember, that's also what they promised us regarding the steam generator installation. So they're coming into this community not quite batting barely 500 on maintaining their promises of accurate and safe oversight.
All right, David Wiseman with the Alliance for Nuclear Responsibility, thank you.
Thank you for having us.
We have a lot more on our website, kpbs.org.